What's up, my freshly battered waffle friends? Today we're going to be waffling on about XDefiant, the latest entry into the long list of games branded by the gaming community as a COD killer. In contrast to some of their other games, in my opinion, this is a really solid entry into the FPS sphere from Ubisoft.
A surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one.
To break down my thoughts more clearly, we're going to split this video into three main sections: gameplay, map design, and content. At the end of this video, we'll give the game an overall score and go into any details I may have missed that warrant being talked about. So, with that out of the way, let's jump into some gameplay footage and talk about the positives and negatives of this game. Gameplay-wise, XDefiant seems to have gone back to basics by slowing down movement, reducing available weapon selections, and removing kill streaks. More on that later. In my opinion, this makes it very hard to make the comparison to Call of Duty and the game as a COD killer. Instead, a better comparison of gameplay would be Halo Infinite, which boasts similar movement, few weapons to choose from, and player equipment, more similar to XDefiant's operator abilities than traditional kill streaks. Gameplay-wise, Halo Infinite focused on improving the balancing of its base mechanics after heavy criticism of Halo 5 Guardians. Yes, I'm looking at you, booster packs. As a brand new IP, XDefiant seems to have watched this unfold from the sidelines and, in a stunning move from Ubisoft, not messed it up. Unlike a certain Assassin's Creed game that still haunts my nightmares. To clarify, I'm not saying that innovating gameplay is inherently negative. Improvements to gameplay over time are what pushes the industry forward and gives some games an advantage over their competition. For example, hit markers, first introduced in GoldenEye 007, environmental destruction, popularised in Red Faction, and advanced movement done justice in games like Titanfall, and not done so well in games like
Advanced Warfare.
So let's break down the gameplay aspects that I think make this game fun to play. Movement in this game feels slower than most of the currently amped up FPS titles, which sounds like a negative, but it's actually a positive, and it's refreshing not getting gunned down by the Scarlet Speedster himself for half a match. On top of this, ADS feels slower, and this culminates in a real challenge as to whether or not you decide to move fast and sacrifice your ability to react to any threats quickly, or march towards an objective with your weapon drawn, giving up potential quick map control for a better chance of getting a drop on a target. Speaking of weapons drawn, having less weapons to select from in XDefiant, 24 including secondaries, is also positive.
From a certain point of view.
I understand that some people prefer quantity over quality, and I must admit some of my favourite looking weapons in modern shooters are normally the obscure weapons, like the PP2000. However, I will concede that from a gameplay balancing aspect, less is better. XDefiant is not another game where there are 20 to 30 guns that you will never see being used, each with 50 plus attachments. In this game, each weapon class has a few guns to choose from, having very minor stat changes within each class, and so balancing within each weapon class feels pretty tight. This does, however, bring me on to one thing I think this game does poorly with its weapons. Light machine guns. LMGs in this game have high capacity, and that's it. They don't seem to do much damage, they take 37 years to reload, they drastically reduce mobility, and I don't think I've played a single game so far where someone has been using an LMG on purpose. I think they're intended for a suppression role in a game, but there's no mechanic to support this. I'm sure someone somewhere has the statistics on their use, but without the figures to hand, you'll just have to jump into a game and see for yourself. Wait, what's that? Yeah, I don't think so. Not in this game anyway. Kill streaks, not a lot to say on this point. They don't exist, and I think that's a good thing. Personally, I enjoy a simple kill streak system, such as the system in Call of Duty 4. But if it's a choice between no kill streaks and 20 plus kill streaks to choose from, where the advantage is only felt by the best players in the lobby, I'm happy for these to be omitted to save my own skin. But in a similar vein, let's move on to faction abilities. These are nothing revolutionary, and personally I would rather these were not in the game, but I see the gameplay value they add. I'm not a big fan of the whole hero shooter genre, and I feel XDefiant is dipping its toes into that market, with abilities such as temporary invisibility and an incendiary drone. While not my preference, I do applaud Ubisoft for adding these abilities into the game in a way that doesn't break the game. None of the faction abilities are particularly overpowered, and the tricky balancing act has been achieved fairly seamlessly here. Playstyle, weapon choice, and game mode all affect how you use these faction abilities. I found myself using almost all faction abilities at some stage, hoping to get that sweet synergy with my weapon choice and the game mode. Sniper with stealth suit? Check. Assault class with incendiary rounds? Check. Hard light barrier in escort modes to protect the objective? Check. With the core gameplay out of the way, let's talk about the map design. Currently, the game has 15 maps in rotation, but I think these are, well, nothing special. Most of the maps are symmetrical for balancing, with the maps used for domination, team deathmatch, and other basic game modes opting for the tried and tested 3-lane design. You either push left, push centre, or push right. Now granted, some of the maps do have differing verticality.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
But in reality, this doesn't really make a huge difference in the game, and I don't find myself opting for the height advantage on most modes. I get it, the game needs to be balanced. We don't want another Operation Metro style map where one side has a distinct advantage over the other, causing people to rage quit when certain objectives were held by the other team. Right? Who am I kidding? I do want that. I don't know about you, but I think that map is crazy good. There's a reason it spanned multiple games, and whole servers were dedicated to Metro 24/7. Let me know in the comments down below, do you prefer asymmetrical maps or symmetrical maps, and why? An issue I have with the maps for the basic game modes is that they feel far too big for a relatively small base shooter. In multiple game modes, I found myself running one lane, getting killed, respawning, and rerunning the lane back to where I was.
Don't get frustrated. We get even.
Spending time traversing empty lanes to get to the action for maybe 10 to 20 seconds is the kind of thing that can take the momentum out of such a small squad-based shooter like XDefiant. And if the maps were scaled down just a little bit, I think a lot of the issues I was having running from objective to objective without seeing anyone would have been solved. Now, conversely, the maps used in the escort game mode were a lot of fun to play. I enjoyed these far more than the basic game modes, and normally I'm not the kind of gamer that enjoys rush or defend based modes. These felt almost perfectly balanced to me, provided you weren't playing with a team of potatoes, with really good areas for pushing,
Target eliminated.
Nice.
defending, and lots of sneaky side routes to cut off the enemy advance or punish the enemy's defense if you are sneaky enough. My favourite map playing the escort mode has to be Zoo, a map full of twists, turns, colour, and a really great atmosphere to match. You start in an open area, escort the package until you get to the first checkpoint, which is a tunnel system, push through the underground in close combat, and then the map opens up once again at the end with the final bridge to cross with heavy fighting on both sides. Now in the footage you're watching, we don't actually get that far, because the game mode works in a way that each team takes its turn attacking and defending. And in the prior round to this, the enemy team didn't get very far with the package, as you can see at the top of the screen. So all we have to do is get the package slightly further than they did during their attack, which we do easily. Sometimes in escort, the game would be over in a few minutes. Sometimes we couldn't get the package to the objective and the game would go on for 10 to 15 minutes. But ultimately, a win or loss on this map felt like it rested on the shoulder of the team, rather than on an unfair advantage either way based on the way the map was laid out. As a free-to-play game, one area XDefiant is lacking is in content that will keep players coming back in the long term. The game does what it says it does on the tin. It's a simple, small-scale shooter, and I'm okay with dumping a few hours into this game every now and then, but it's not something I can see myself jumping on to play in a few months' time. As previously mentioned, there are 15 maps as of the time of recording this video, 24 weapons, and 5 operator classes. And while I do personally think that the smaller weapon pool is a positive, I know that this also means that once you find 3 or 4 weapon classes you max out, the rest of the content in this game isn't enough to retain players. Additional content provided through the game's store and the Battle Pass is mostly cosmetic, and while I personally rarely buy these sorts of cosmetics, I'm not a fan of this style of monetization in games. Give me the game, a small-scale Ubisoft online-only shooter for £15 to £20, and leave the full Battle Pass in the game as a progression system to unlock cosmetics for my operators. I'd happily buy the game and would play the game over a far longer period of time to complete the Battle Pass entirely. But I do understand it. Ubisoft will make far more money from the less financially savvy and from kids using their parents' credit cards than they ever would releasing the game as a paid title. And this way, they can milk the Battle Pass money for the next few seasons until the hype around the game dies down. Otherwise, there's not a lot to talk about content-wise for this game, and it really feels bare bones at this point in time. Now, before I give XDefiant the waffle stamp of approval or disapproval, there are a few other points I want to mention briefly that deserve small sections to themselves. TTK issues. I found that playing the game, the time to kill is wildly unreliable. Using the same weapon on the same map in the same game, sometimes I'll take someone out in a few shots, sometimes I'll mag dump an enemy and they'll walk it off. I'm no expert on why this might be the case, but I just thought I would point out that I found this puzzling in certain matches. Connected universes. Now I was pleasantly surprised when downloading this game and hearing the hype but not knowing anything about the operators in this game. So now that I know they're based off Ubisoft properties, I had a good laugh seeing the operators fighting alongside each other, against each other, and also seeing the Rayman Raven Rabbits dotted around the maps and on the training grounds. Skill-based matchmaking. I cannot stress how much I love that this game has opted for skill-based matchmaking, optional only for the first 25 levels in this game. And then no skill-based matchmaking after that point. Sometimes I can drop into a game and I'm the best player in the lobby. Sometimes I'm trash, and I would much rather have 1 or 2 bad games and 1 or 2 where I feel like an FPS god than play in a lobby where I have to play at my absolute peak to get even a few kills. So, to round out this video, what do I give this game a score out of 10? Where 1 is complete trash, 5 is playable in small doses, and 10 is the pinnacle of gaming. I'm going to have to give this game 6 out of 10, just your basic standard waffle. If there wasn't so much content in this game locked behind my credit card number, there were smaller and maybe a few asymmetrical maps for the base game modes, and the time to kill issues were sorted out, XDefiant would creep its way up to maybe a 7, but otherwise, 6 out of 10 it is. Would I recommend this game? I probably would, maybe to someone looking for a free, casual shooter, but otherwise, if I'm playing games with friends, there are far better options on the market to choose from. Now, enough waffling on. If you've sat through my rambling so far, please make sure to like this video and subscribe for more content like this. Leave a comment down below with anything you think I can improve on. Your feedback in my last video was invaluable to me, and right now I'm working on a release schedule for my videos, so we're going to mix up a bit with something slightly different next time. I hope to see you there, and goodbye for now.